Thank you very much, Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters, for this opportunity to give a small yet concise module on effective evaluation. Now, before I do so, I'd like to make a confession. Being labeled as one of the past district evaluation champions has cornered me into a typecast role. Just like John Wayne in the old Western movies, I now became the go-to guy for effective evaluation. So I need to change and update this flagship presentation all the time, because you don't want to be caught doing the same material twice. So this is only one of many iterations of the same material. I always try to find new methods of delivering the core message of effective evaluation. So there are so many allegorical examples of the same workshop, but in different tools and vehicles to deliver effective evaluation. Now, having said so, I truly believe that effective evaluation is one of the most selfless acts when it comes to our role as Toastmasters. You spend time and effort, you prepare, you deliver an evaluation just for the sake of helping someone else. This is more or less like a selfless act that you give out your energy, your knowledge, so that someone else can benefit moving forward. I always start with this. I believe that the judging ballot, if you're going into the next evaluation session or contest, the judging ballot gives you a very nice, clear framework on where you should focus most of your effective evaluation. We sometimes think that good evaluations is all about the showmanship, that you come on the stage, you deliver something full of flair, full of panache, and then this level of delivery can really impress people and make them listen to you. But in reality, effective evaluation is about the reverse of being a flamboyant or having panache in your delivery. It's about the core part of the evaluation, which is analysis and the quality of that analysis. So you can, if you see the breakdown of grades or marking in the ballot, you see a whooping 70% or 70 points given to analysis and recommendations. And to me, recommendations are more important than even analysis, because if you look at these two areas, the 40 points for analysis and 30 points for recommendations, you will easily find out that one of them is based on something that happened in the past, and the other one is something for the future. Let me explain. When you analyze a speech, when you go into the content, when you try to find out the organizational aspect of a speech, when you dissect the content of the speech, you're actually doing a forensic analysis for something that happened in the past. Rarely speakers do repeat the same speech. So when you're trying to analyze something in the past, you're not serving the speaker to move forward. It's only in your recommendations that you are giving something for the speaker to improve for the future. That's why having specific, helpful recommendations are quite important compared in the whole scheme of things in the judging criteria. Then, of course, we have 15 points for how much you show sympathy and motivation in your technique. You don't want to have an evaluator who is quite cynical, harsh, negative. You don't want to have that in the whole process, because in the end, you don't want to burn your bridges. You want to keep on building connections with any speakers, past or future. The last point, to be honest, I was surprised that in my first 5 years of competing in this competition, I was not doing any summation. So I was losing 15 points by default. So imagine if you're not summarizing your evaluation or your feedback, it won't sound as organized as required. So when you start giving your introduction, then probably the best way to end it is by linguistically mentioning that this is the ending part of my evaluation. This is my summary. Now, I believe that 3 minutes or 3 minutes and a half is really unfair to deliver a good evaluation. And now I'm sure that the 3 minutes were given 90 years ago with Toastmasters basic educational manual, but I believe that 3.5 minutes are challenging for one to focus and give effective evaluation. So what happens with ineffective evaluations? What happens is we spend the bulk of time repeating the speech or giving something we call a deja vu scenario, as if something were seen before. I don't know why, but I believe that because we take a lot of notes, that by default, our evaluations become essay writing contests. As humans, we are programmed to brief and debrief what we are writing. So when you have this piece of paper or note and you take down your notes, by default, you began to repeat the speech, wasting a lot of important time. Also, we don't want to, walk into uncharted waters. So we overpraise our speakers. We don't want to make them feel bad. And what happens here is we repeat the same praising words. So for example, when we say Somesh had a wonderful speech, and again, we repeat the same thing. The speech was wonderful. So we go on this cycle of repeating the same praise, wasting valuable time. Then what happens? All of a sudden, we see the amber light or the yellow light appearing on the background of the timer. We panic, we squeeze a couple of suggestions, we see the red light, we panic even more, and we end the evaluation as if we have just been into a car crash. The car was running in the lane. Suddenly there was a big bang and I went into a blackout and the accident happened. This is what happens, and I believe this is because of that short amount of time we have in the evaluation process. I am sure that in your clubs, you've been through such level of ineffective evaluation. Maybe the evaluator was a good speaker or a good person in analysis, but that time challenge really squeezes people out of their ability to give effective evaluations. Now, what am I suggesting here? A very small tweaking within the same time frame of 3.5 minutes. What I do in my evaluations is I don't focus on writing down a lot of words in a piece of paper or an essay. All I do is as if I am Cronkite, a very famous news anchor, or one of the old 1960s or 70s CBS highlight news, midnight news anchors. All I do is I give the highlight, a summary of what went well in the speech. I usually pick up 1 or 2 aspects of the speech. The purpose here is not to deja vu the rest of the speech and to win myself some time. I don't want to see the green light without me moving into the core of evaluation, which is focused suggestions. If you can get 2 or 3 focused suggestions with actual examples and quotations from the speech, then you are doing well in terms of timing. You can't go past 2 or 3. 3 is a stretch. So like today when I was evaluating Toastmaster Satya, I gave him 3 suggestions and I was squeezed in the end. I wasn't feeling comfortable towards the end of my evaluation. So 2 good evaluations, focused suggestions will be the right, perfect spot for your evaluation. Also here, you will need to be careful if you want to diagnose the symptom, please offer the medication to solve that symptom. Don't be like a doctor who can diagnose an illness without giving a prescription to how to overcome that illness or sickness. Then before you see the red light, try your best to give a proper summary and handover and avoid a sudden death in your evaluation. Now, this takes time, it takes practice, it takes refinement. You need to try it again and again. And again, I'll borrow from Darren LaCroix, the 2001 world champion, stage time, stage time, stage time. The more chances you get to evaluate, the more effective you become as an evaluator. Now, I have one more slide on classic pitfalls where we see people become ineffective in evaluation. And I divided them into three main groups. First one is in the analysis. Now, there is a trick. If you can recall the last time you attended a division level contest or a district level contest, people are taught to plan for their evaluations. So they prepare this allegorical framework. Like, for example, speaking is like swimming, or speaking is like having a buffet dinner. The first part is the appetizer, the main part is the main course, and the last part is the dessert. Now, don't get me wrong, this is quite creative, but it's taken away from the core part of your evaluation, which is analysis and recommendations. And sometimes it could be somehow some sort of cheating because you're trying to squeeze a pre-prepared mold into an evaluation. And a lot of people sound robotic when they bring a pre-planned framework into the evaluation process. Also in delivery, because you want to impress a group of 4 or 5 or 6 judges, we try to overshine and take away the stage from the speaker. And we become the speakers ourselves. We try to steal the thunder from the speaker and become excessive and dramatic and go into stories. I've seen Toastmasters who, instead of evaluating, they give whole new speeches. Like, for example, if I'm going to imitate such speakers or evaluators in my evaluation of Toastmasters Satya, I would say something like this. I remember when I was a child, I was a very lonely and shy kid. So my mother always told me to become outgoing and social. So you see what I mean here? Instead of me evaluating the speaker, I'm going into a whole new rant, a whole new speech to steal the thunder. Also, the technique is often rushed, even negative and wordy. Trust me, fellow Toastmasters, in one of the years I was competing, the feedback one of the evaluators gave to the target speaker is, your pronunciation is not good. Your English pronunciation is not good. I recommend you to listen to the BBC World Service and listen how they pronounce English. Now, can you imagine what is the level of motivation of the person after hearing such harsh, cynical evaluation? I don't think they'll continue after this. So my main take-home message from this classic pitfall is, fellow Toastmasters, the moment you find yourself, the moment you catch yourself becoming too cynical, too sarcastic, too negative and toxic, please take a break from evaluations. Do something else and come back to it when you're more positive and outgoing. My last slide is what I call fine-tuning. And this is a series of 2 answered questions. So in this, I'd like to recap on how we can refine our evaluation at any level of the club, from ice-breaking into district or division level evaluations. Do I whitewash a speech, or do I slap or bash a speaker? Now, this depends on what level of speeches you are trying to evaluate. And it's a given rule of thumb that with ice breaking, you kind of need to encourage and whitewash slowly try to build up the confidence of your new member to become even more confident. So I am leaning towards a very balanced approach from whitewashing into avoiding bashing. Do I objectify the speaker or do I personalize the speaker? This is an important small detail that really can help you. You know what is the most memorable word your ears like to hear as a person? It's the sound of your own name. So if I use the name of Satya and even explain the meaning of the name, Satya will have a smile on his face. My evaluator cares about me. He's not making me an object. I'm not saying my speaker did this. He's not in my ownership, the things I own. And I'm not being so impersonal and using pronouns like him or her. I'm talking directly to my speaker, showing interest. So I'm a big fan of giving a personal touch to the speaker. Do I share or assume feelings? This is a deal breaker for a Toastmasters. You never assume the feelings of the room. Even if the room was not feeling it, the room is not biting on the core message of the speech. Always share your own feelings and even say it. Say the speech made me feel. The speech made me think. The speech made me feel, because your feelings are yours. Nobody can argue with your own feelings. They can argue with some of the thoughts and principles and concepts, but nobody can say, hey, this guy is lying. He didn't feel sad. Nobody can really open up your heart and look at your level of sadness or happiness. So always share your feelings about a speech. Also, there's a power inside an effective evaluation in sharing your humble opinion. Toastmasters is a unique program because there are no levels between members here. Even if you're a DTM or an advanced speaker, if you go to the core of Toastmasters bylaws and constitution, there are no obligations for me to be at a better level than other members. We're all equal here. Even our evaluations are merely suggestions. They're not instructions. They're not make or break deal. So whenever you're humble and down to earth and sharing your own opinion, the better it is for the speakers to get your feedback and get your points of improvement. Now, the most dreaded word in any ineffective evaluation, but this is a nightmarish word to use. My mom always tells me, Ahmed, be careful when you're using but, because the moment you use but, people will forget what you've said before the but, and you'll start listening to what you're going to say after the but. So even if you do something good and you praise the speaker, saying a resounding but makes everything that you built go into thin air. Now here, this is a bit tricky because to remove the but, you need to insert a lot of words. I'll give you an example in my evaluation. I didn't use but in my evaluation, but I said, tonight, my role as an evaluator is to point out areas of improvement to make Satya's speech better next time. So you see how many words I've used to replace the but? But trust me, it has a lot of impact. Go over time. No, don't play with the edge of time, because the edge of time will make you feel rushed and it will make you feel nervous. So give yourself enough time to finish and get all the elements done in time. The speech is not the speaker. The content is not the speaker. The speech is the creation of the speaker. Use an example of Frankenstein. So the Frankenstein is not the name of the monster. Frankenstein is the name of the person that created the monster. Same thing, if the speech was bad, always separate the speech from the speaker. Protect your speaker. Pamper him or her. If you want to be cynical and over negative in your evaluation, focus your energy on the speech and protect your speaker. It's the same as when you do parenting. You don't punish your child because of who he is or who she is. You can condemn a bad behavior, but save some face for the speaker or the person. The same thing applies in effective evaluation. Close the loop and always end on a positive high note. Never end on a negative, discouraging phrase or word. Always be uplifting, and don't burn any bridges. Build new connections with your speakers for the future. I'm quite happy that I finished this in 20 minutes. I usually take longer than that, but I designed these slides to be in 20 minutes. And I think we have questions for 10 more minutes if you have any clarification to do with what you have heard in these simple slides. Thank you very much for the chance, and I wish you ongoing effective evaluations for the future.
Can I ask a question, Ahmad?
Yes, please.
Okay, regarding the recommendation, what is your technique, your method of giving recommendation to a speaker?
Well, thank you very much, Saiful. There is something that I always say when it comes to evaluation. We use the rule of 55-38-7. So 55 nonverbal, 38 is voice, and only 7% is words we use. This is the Albert Marhabian model of communication effectiveness. In evaluation in particular, this is the reverse. Words you say are quite important. I'll tell you why. You need to sound smart, intellectual. So my trick in recommendations is I always use big words and nice adjectives. Even if I want to use some rhyme or reason, I would do that, because the more you sound clever and intellectual, the more believable you would sound. And the trick here is to use a lot of adjectives. The English language has so many adjective, adverbial phrases. This will add more color to your evaluation, to your recommendation. Number two, another secret I use on my piece of paper, when I divide the piece of paper into my points of improvement, I guess the classic sandwich is the best way to organize your notes. So what went well, what needs improvement, and how to improve it. What went well is my highlights, the 3 highlights of 3 remarks. What needs improvement is within this same bracket. I even divide this further into 2 main brackets: delivery and content. So my area of feedback number 1 is always about content. So I try to dive into organization, hook, thought organization, the story, how was the story as an anchor. So I'll be like an Aaron Sorkin type of evaluator, looking to script and try to visualize all those memorable Hollywood movies and try to analyze the script. And I focus my attention on how I could look into the script. That's one area. Second area, I focus on how the person delivered the speech. So from Aaron Sorkin, I go into Leo DiCaprio, and I imagine him being Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt, as if he's acting in a Hollywood blockbuster. Try to find out how the energy was, how nonverbal, the verbal, vocal variety. So I always keep a cheat sheet with me. That cheat sheet has a lot of buzzwords. So you go back to the world champions of Toastmasters, there are a few of them that I continue to become coaches after winning the title. A few of them are, like, for example, David Brooks, 1990 world champion, 1995 Mark Brown, 99 Craig Valentine, 2001 Darren LaCroix, 2005 Lance Miller. These world champions continue to rally and create workshops that dive into areas where we can give specific feedback. So those were my starting points, were to gather some reservoir of areas to focus on.
Can I ask a question, Ahmed?
Yes.
Yeah. While summarizing, can we repeat what we said in the beginning? Is it okay to repeat it?
Yes, as long as you mention in summary or in summation, because what happens is when you're a judge and you're going into the ballot, you'll go in a top-down order. So you have given your 40 points for analysis, you've given your 30 points for recommendation, you've seen the technique of the evaluator, and the last point left is summation. So by the time you hit 3.5 minutes, the evaluator or the judge is listening to what you're going to say, what you will close your evaluation. So he needs to hear the term in summation or in summary. Don't repeat the whole thing because you won't have enough time. You will have barely 10 seconds or 15 seconds, but try to kind of do a very quick roundup of what you've said. So in my case, I would say overall or in summation, we've heard a wonderful speech by the speaker. These were the point of improvement. Focus on the contest, focus on the emotional appeal, and you will do great. I'm sure that your speech next time will be wonderful. So you see, your summary is not very long. It's just a very quick snapshot of what you have just said in the last 3 minutes. Now, yes, Teresa, go ahead.
I just wondered if you wanted to share your presentation with any of us, because we live on the other side of the world and love to have you come, but it is getting towards Christmas and stuff. But well, I think it's very effective, and I'm sure Kathy's thinking the same thing.
Yeah. I was about to ask.
Not that I want to steal your ideas because I wrote it all down, but
Yeah.
Sure. My pleasure. And indeed, anytime, any place, I would. And this is only the one I've shared today was one of the basics ones. So I have more advanced one, more beautified ones, a lot of more decoration, a lot of more allegorical examples. I have one with the Beatles, a Beatle themed evaluation. You would love that if you're in the world of music. But sure, definitely, I'll be happy to share the material. Another question?
You have a question. Tanisa, I have a question.
Yes, Tanisa.
I have a question, Ahmed. I will be evaluating Toastmasters only based on body language. So how would you actually recommend someone like me, someone really relatively new to Toastmasters, to just focus on body language? How would you actually give me any suggestion for that?
Okay, no problem. So Tanisa, Toastmasters International, they have two manuals, very nice manuals, booklets. They're not books, they're booklets. One of them is called Your Speaking Voice. The manual is called Your Speaking Voice. Another one is called Your Body Speaks. So these are publications by Toastmasters International, and they're available in digital form, because I bought them in physical form back way like 10 years ago. And I've read through all of them. They are really good in terms of giving you some tips on body language. If you had the old CC manual before the pathway, the legacy program, the CC manual has project number 4 about body language and 5 about vocal variety. 4 and 5, there are specific examples on how to use the body language in your effective evaluation. And if you want to read outside Toastmasters, then Dale Carnegie is still a powerhouse in presentation skills. I've read many books by many Toastmasters, non-Toastmasters. I always go back to Dale Carnegie. He had this magical touch in his publications. And you might think, this guy, you know, he wrote these things like many years ago, but the applications of the principles are still the same. Also, Napoleon Hill and Zig Ziglar, these are two powerful writers in terms of the written and spoken words. I always refer back to them and to their publications. In Toastmasters, there are 4 corners of body language or nonverbal, 4 corners. The first one is hand gestures. The second one is eye contact. The third one is facial expressions. And the fourth one is body movement or posture and body movement. Now, I do have another workshop just only focusing on nonverbals based on that manual driven by Toastmasters International. It's a wonderful module I always share with speech crafters because I have Gavaliers and non-Toastmasters, and they love to know how can they tell if somebody's lying. So part of that module is to tell how somebody is lying. You can tell it by simple tips and techniques.
Thank you so much. I will try to look up on that, do my homework. Thank you.
My pleasure.
You
All right,
can
let me
go to
just end. Yes, the question or?
I just want to say to Tanisha, actually, if you scavenges through the Toastmaster International website, there's a lot of material on that thing on digital side. So it's been published. I think most of the CC or the old manual is in there. You just need to go to the library.
Yes, absolutely. I would like to end with one story that happened to me, and there's a story behind it. I hope it will serve as an inspiration to end up my workshop. So the last time I gave a competitive evaluation was May 2017. So between 2005 and 2017, I took part in 13 consecutive district level speech evaluation contests. I was on the podium 3 times and I got the title once in 2012. In 2017, if you're a fan of wrestling, there's a wrestler called The Undertaker. And The Undertaker is quite famous for coming back at WrestleMania and winning the title. And he never dies because he always comes back. So I was that Undertaker of speech evaluation. On that specific year, I said, okay, I feel I'm kind of got my glory out of this. So it's a make or break year for me as a speech evaluator. Before COVID, we had something called holding rooms or waiting rooms. So they keep you inside waiting rooms like prisoners. It is really sometimes inhumane because you're locked inside a room and you're waiting for your turn. And if you're unlucky, if you have the ballot, the sequence of being the 6th or 7th evaluator, so you have to wait for 25 minutes for your turn to come. And what happens inside that waiting room is almost taken from a horror movie. People who are outside the room, they're friendly, they're smiling, they're happy. Once they go inside the room, everything changes. They become kind of zombies and they practice this haunted type of expression. They practice their speech. They pace back and forth the room. They become nervous. They become edgy. And I dare you to speak. If you say anything, somebody will shush you as if you have made a crime. So my crime on that day was asking for water. I was so thirsty. So I said, excuse me, Mr. Toastmaster, I want water. And I heard the loudest shh from the person next to me because he's trying to pace his own evaluation. So I sat on a corner and watched this drama unfold in front of me. And I began thinking, is this why we're here? Is this the whole message of being a Toastmaster? I don't think we should be crammed in a room trying to win a piece of plastic as trophy. Such a selfish achievement to achieve. And for what price? To be squeezed in a room, not connecting with each other, trying to compete for a prize? believe me, fellow Toastmasters, that was the last time I was inside a holding room, a waiting room. I left that room with one resolve, that the real purpose we have in Toastmasters is to break away from any shackles that makes us ineffective as speakers. And I began the journey of spreading knowledge, motivation, and every aspect of knowledge, techniques, skills, and evaluation with as many people as possible. And that was my last time as a competitive evaluator.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Amazing workshop. It's a world-class level workshop. We are really fortunate to have you as our member, and hopefully you'll continue to give us these gems of wisdom that will help us a lot. Thank you so much. Let's stop the recording now.